Hello and welcome to Walford Weekly, your EastEnders podcast, all about Walford. This week...
And EastEnders.
And EastEnders. Well, nah, just Walford. This week, it will be me hosting again. I'm Alex, and I'm joined, as always, soon-to-be retiree, Ben. Hello, Ben.
Hello.
So, before we start the podcast, and we go through a few corrections as well from the mistakes we made last week, I've got some news to share that Ben, from this week, will be taking a hiatus or a small break, perhaps indefinitely, from the podcast.
Perhaps. I did say the door was closed a few weeks ago.
Yes.
My exit is incoming. And it is coming.
So, plan is that hopefully I will carry on the podcast, and I don't know, there might be other ideas bubbling around. So if you want to know what's going to be happening to the podcast in the future, I strongly recommend, if you haven't already, following us on Twitter at Walford Weekly, or joining our Facebook group by just searching Walford Weekly Podcast on Facebook and then clicking to join.
Or our YouTube channel.
I won't be posting any news on that. Well, I might post news.
You can if you want.
Follow our YouTube channel as well, because Ben will be carrying on doing the spoilers for the YouTube. No, we'll be carrying on doing the spoilers on the YouTube channel, and also our review of the year, our retro podcasts. Where
I'll do them still.
Yeah.
I'll do them up to 2006.
Okay, I think you might have guessed the reason why Ben might be stepping down for a little bit.
No.
Perhaps the standard isn't to your liking anymore.
Yeah, let's go with that. It's time to
move on.
Sink the boat.
Your contract your contract is
not up for renewal.
Yeah, we're not renewing it. So it's a sad last episode for now for Ben. And if anyone wants to send any nice or horrible messages to Ben, please feel free to do so, as I say, on our Twitter, our Instagram, and our Facebook as well. Thank you for joining us. Sorry I had to start on such a sad note, but it's a happy note as well, because it's
whole not that bad.
Exactly. I'm still here. Something to look forward to. Yeah. So as I said, we've got a few things to do. First of all, we have a shout out. Another shout out. If you've got a shout out, you're someone you'd like us to say hello to, again, get in touch with us. Michael Perry, the plant geek, who's a long time
from
fan.
This Morning in QVC fame.
Indeed. Is also a friend of the show.
He was on This Morning this week.
Was he? What was he promoting?
Plants. And Ruth and Eamon kept arguing when he was talking about plants.
How embarrassing.
And he couldn't get in there and carry on his section. And then they were like, oh, there's only so much time left, Michael, carry on.
They always do that, though, Ruth and Eamon. It's a morning show in the UK for any American listeners out there. And basically, Ruth and Eamon, who host it, basically end up bickering. And then the whole segment is ended before it's even begun. Bit like our podcast. Long-time fan of the podcast, Michael Perry, the plant geek, would like a shout-out for his partner, who's also a huge fan. Some persuasion
of us or EastEnders?
Of us and EastEnders. Oh. Some persuasion was needed. But, however, his name is Chanik.
Hello,
Chanik. Wow. Hello,
Chanik.
Hi, Chanik. And we'd like to say thank you for listening to the show, both of you.
Hello, Ruth and Eamon.
Well,
just in case.
Hello, Phil and Holly.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's ever on the show and he wants to name drop us, please feel free to. I say us, it's just me now.
Oh, yeah.
Also, a correction from last week. Ben said that the jury for Whitney's court case was made up of crew members and a competition winner. After we recorded the episode, Ben found out that the source was a hoax.
It was a joke. It was someone making fun of the EastEnders social media team.
Yes.
So it is an easy mistake to make because
the social media team
like their Twitter profile has like autumn leaves from like clip art around the EastEnders logo. So who am I to know what's real and what's fake?
Fair enough.
Is everything made out of cake?
So just ignore, if you're listening to that episode again, ignore that little tidbit. I mean, we make mistakes throughout.
Who doesn't?
But that was quite a big one, I thought. And so
hardly a big mistake. It wasn't like I announced Gray exited and he didn't.
Don't say stuff like that. People might get upset.
Lots of exits recently.
Well, this is what we're moving on to, because there's now an exit announced this week, and someone rejoining the show, an old character. Well, now, if you don't want to know this, maybe skip forward about 3-4 minutes, or look at our timestamps on the notes, just so you know when to move forward. But where should we start?
The axing.
The axing, all right. Yeah. It's not an axing.
It was. Well, wasn't her choice.
The contract was ending.
The PR team did the same quote they did for Kush. That quote that really upset me and annoyed me. They did the same quote here.
Which was?
It's like something along the lines of sometimes a storyline comes up where you just have to sacrifice a character. It's like, no, you don't. Especially when they're like, 30 odd. Phil's still going. How come you can't sacrifice him?
Well, Tina's not 30 though. Oh, sorry, it's Tina. Tina's going. Tina is gone.
I mean, I'm not massively upset.
We've talked a few times about how there's nothing for her. They're not doing much with her.
I'm upset that they didn't just do this on February in Boat Week and just had her drown.
But this is the
Love you,
contention.
Tina.
Yes, this is the contention, isn't it? Because yet again, another character that could have quite plausibly been a death during Boat Week, rather than getting rid of a potentially legacy character of Dennis Rickman,
Mitchell.
Mitchell. What?
What?
They could have got rid of I wouldn't say she was a B character necessarily.
No, it
She's
would have
still
been enough of a hit,
shock,
I think.
yeah.
Because she's been on like 7 years. But it is weird. Like, all these people did the Secrets on the Square, and like they're all sitting there like, oh, this stuff coming up. I've got so much stuff, amazing stuff. And like Tina, didn't she say, I've just had a meeting this morning? Tina's had coronavirus. And it's like, that's not even...
Well, it's not even happening on the show.
So I do think it's weird.
They're
like,
picking
Jake
them
Wood
off
did
one by
it.
one.
Kush, Davude was on Secrets on the Square, and Tina was as well, wasn't she? So it's all... They were told, could you just do this as a favour because you're leaving? Oh, okay. Is that how they got Linda Henry to do her first ever interview?
Oh, maybe. What, so she... What, to say, like, if we're going to get rid of you, so do it...
No, not Linda Henry, but like her mate, Louisa. Maybe she did it as a favour.
Because you could tell they were very close when they did their interview on Secrets from the Square.
I wonder how Linda Henry feels, because she was really upset and angry that they killed off Heather, wasn't she?
Yes.
And now she's had Tina as her little double act for 7 years. Now she's off.
Not quite the same, though. Heather was a much more closer friend. I know it's technically her sister. Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, on screen, there was more of a dynamic between Heather and Shirley. There was the yin and the yang of one another. Kind of a
I'm not massively upset, but at the same time, it's a bit like... another regular familiarity to the show is just gone, and then they're like, oh no, but there's a new character coming back.
Yes.
And it's like, it's an old character, but it's not really. It's a new character.
It's interesting because it's a character that not necessarily, this is who's returning, isn't necessarily one who I would have picked personally, but hopefully she's grown up, and hopefully she's now a bit more interesting, because she was very one tone for me anyway.
Gonna say her name?
Chelsea Fox.
Yep, she's returning.
Denise's daughter is returning. A recast from Coronation Street, so presumably a friend of Kate Oates. She's dragging her.
She was in the same time. She was in Waterloo Road, wasn't she? I think. But yeah, they've just had one promo of her.
Yeah, a really bad promo photo of her. It makes her look...
It doesn't look like Chelsea Fox at all.
Well,
it looks like Libby Fox.
Yeah, no, well, for me, she looked like her mum, because they've strained her hair very straight up close to her
Denise,
face. Like Denise.
But it doesn't look like if I saw that and they were like, guess who she's been recast as, I don't think I would guess Chelsea Fox.
But I am happy that they're introducing more black characters who are coming into the show. You know,
building up the Foxes.
We've always championed Denise, and for months we were saying, you know, she needs a storyline.
Phil Mitchell is sniffing around her storyline a bit too much for me this week.
But it's one of those things that they just can't trust themselves to give anyone a story unless Phil is attached to it somehow. I don't know why the writers and the producers of the show always think that, I don't think people will get attached to the story unless there's a Mitchell to it, which is a huge shame. But then I suppose it's not particularly their fault, because the Raymond story is one that's historically a story between Denise and Phil, so it makes sense that they're together. But yeah, it's very exciting news.
Yeah, she's going. Obviously, Lucas is coming back. Her dad.
Yeah, they've just started filming his scenes.
Don't really know how he's back, but we'll see. We'll see.
I'm very excited. I'm really excited about Lucas. I know you said, like, oh, how did he get out of jail? That makes no sense. You know, he's done for a double murder charge.
Isn't it triple?
Oh, triple murder.
And a kidnap? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what he was. Maybe he was only done for one murder.
I'm up for an escape storyline. I'm even up to seeing
Well, he
how
had an escape, didn't he, in 2018?
Yeah, so he's got history. He can do it again.
Or so they let him out.
Yeah, or they just let him out on good behaviour.
Bit Sideshow Bob, isn't it?
It is. Sideshow Lucas.
Maybe he'll go against Ian as counsellor of Walford.
Like that episode of The Simpsons?
Yes.
It'll be interesting times ahead. Anyway, as we were talking about Denise and Phil's story, we may as well start with their story this week, where Phil has met Raymond, taken a selfie with Raymond in the most bizarre scenes ever seen in hospital.
That was weird, wasn't it? When he was like, you saw him think, shall I do? Yeah, I will take a photo, I think.
But it was a selfie. That's what's so ridiculous. It's really
creepy, isn't it?
I suppose if it was just a picture of Raymond, it would look even more creepier, especially if someone was flicking through his phone. It's like, why not a picture of a small boy on your phone, Phil?
Makes Frankie look normal now with her camera.
Yes, I suppose so. I was very impressed also by the angle. Phil knew that, keep it high, then you're not showing your double chin. It's a good angle for a selfie.
It's called the boomer angle, isn't it, that?
Right.
I think that's what it is now.
I was half expecting him to have like a selfie stick in his back pocket. Click, click, click. And they'll be just there ready for him to take that photograph. Denise is a bit worried that Elle and Phil are becoming very close because Lola had admitted to Denise that Phil has been seeing Raymond.
Lola gave me, this is going to be shocking, but she gave me slight Michelle Fowler vibes this week.
Because she's a snitch.
Not she's a snitch, but because she found that information and she thought, oh, bugger it, I'm just going to tell her. And she did. And it was like, oh, that was a bit Michelle, wasn't it? Like, Michelle would, like, if she found out something, she'd just go up to the person and say, this has just happened.
Yeah, she'd have it out straight away. A bit Lou Bill.
A bit Pauline.
So,
yeah, that was quite good of Lola this week. She wasn't quite as, like, feisty and confident as Michelle.
No.
But it gave me slight old Michelle vibes, that did. When she just thought, I'm just going to tell Denise and I'm going to tell Phil.
You say she's not as confident, but I found her, after she gave the news to Denise, she kind of strolled into the room with Phil and kind of didn't give a monkey's kind of attitude, which I admired of her too. But then when Phil kind of forgave her after Ellie found out and then Ellie conned Phil later on, Lola had a bit of a, phew, I've got away with that one then, that's fine. But Lola's got history with Phil about Phil wanting to take children away from other people because Phil initially threatened Lola taking away Lexi from her when she first was born.
He said, it's my family. Yeah, so she's obviously got a bit of resentment there. So, and Denise as well stood up to Phil this week, which I always enjoy. And Ellie, everyone, all the women did.
Yeah.
So I quite enjoyed that, how like they were just all like, you're just a stupid old man, go up against you.
But don't forget that the Mitchells are meant to be a force to reckon with, and yet conned.
Most wanted.
It's a Mitchell name. That's their reputation. If they got leaked by the underground, types of East End of London, you think that if they found out that a middle-aged woman had conned Phil out of £10,000 by saying that her child needed
5,000.
Oh, was it £5,000? Needed an operation on the booper. That again would tarnish the Mitchell name, let alone Ben tarnishing it. Do you not feel would have done it by saying that?
What, because he got so...
Well, he
was just fooled quite easily. Like, what? I thought he would be paying, like, the Booper account, but he must have paid it to Ellie.
He paid it into her account.
Yeah, so that was a mistake.
Not by online.
Should have learned that from all the things Sharon's done to know not to do that.
But then I suppose he let his heart play over his head.
He pushed out a tear, didn't he?
Well,
about Raymond.
I mean, it is his son at the end of the day, and he's going through the family one by one, letting them know that.
I know. What does that
Ben
mean?
is your brother.
Like, he is my son. He is your. Well, you've not been in his life? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, how strong is the blood family thing?
But then Phil has alluded to in the last few weeks, Raymond is his Dennis, his Denny. Like he loved Denny, even though it wasn't his. He always loved Denny. And when Denny died, he could never forgive himself for it.
Loved him, but he went off to Tenerife with Lou and
left him at home. But like he's now having a second chance with Raymond. He's been given fourth, fifth, sixth. Fourth. Another chance with another child. Phil wants to take care of it, but Phil is very old, and I don't know what he's planning. What's he planning with, like, bringing up Raymond? Is he trying to make him the hard man of the Mitchell clan?
Hopefully Denise won't let him. She would rather blow her own cover with Ellie, wouldn't she, than let Phil snoop in. So she did tell Ellie all the secrets.
Well, which is what led to Ellie basically conning Phil. Denise, despite all her efforts and even getting Jack involved and him threatening, his police contacts with Phil. And
he keeps threatening that Jack, doesn't he? It's so stupid. It's like, just go tell them now. Like, you've told him, you've warned Phil like 4 times. And Phil's like, I don't care. And just walks past him. It's like, why does Phil think that the police wouldn't care? They still care about who hit him around the back of the head.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? It's like Phil is being watched by the police via Callum at the moment, and being bugged. Obviously, Phil doesn't know this is happening, but Phil seems to live in this kind of illusion where he's basically always one step ahead of the police. And the police seem to live in a very equal illusionist world where they think that they're going to take this step and get in front of him at some point. And I don't know, it's just always a cat and mouse chasing game between Phil and the police. And I think Phil is slowly running out of luck. And I do wonder, because obviously it's Steve McFadden's break soon, where he would normally doing a pantomime at some point, but perhaps he's just going to put on the Captain Hook costume at home and just run around screaming the lines. Is he due to have another arrested or put in prison or run away to Magaluf
Spain,
or go to Spain. You know, is this coming forward again? You know, this whole, and what then would come of Raymond? The foxes are being built up bit by bit by bit. Are we actually going to end up that Raymond does end up being with Denise and Jack, and that's his new mum and dad?
Oh, Ellie's got him. Maybe Ellie keeps him.
Yeah, but then does Ellie become a permanent resident of the square then and moves in with Raymond?
I don't know. I mean, Mika Paris has an album out.
Does she?
She does.
That's an interesting revelation.
Well, only because it made me think, oh, maybe she's just like a temporary character then, because like she's busy promoting her album now, and is there going to be a tour? Like she's had like a new weave on this. This was this morning again. I watched one episode this morning.
All you watch is daytime TV. Ever since we moved up to Scotland, all you do is watch television.
And that made me think, oh, okay, maybe she's quite temporary. So I'm wondering if Lucas is going to be involved, and like his first victim may be Ellie.
But then why has Lucas got such an attachment to Raymond?
Well, we don't know. We don't know anything
confusing,
about that.
Isn't
Yeah.
it?
But I'm just wondering is she just a very temporary entry? I mean, what do you think of Ellie? Because like the past few weeks when she's been on, she's only had like one sentence, but she had a bit more to do this week.
I like Ellie. She's fine. As you say, you've not really learnt a lot about her. She's
just a bit flat.
Yeah, she's
weird.
Her main attack to a character is by basically opening her eyes very wide and staring at them with like
she like walks in a room with a handbag, says something, and then walks out of a room.
Yeah, makes a snide comment, which then shocks the character who she's addressed it to, and their breath is taken away that they can't reply quick enough for her to.
But it is odd because like when she was being interviewed, where like as Mika, she's done quite a bit of publicity for EastEnders. She's really quite charismatic and she's got loads of energy and she's really fun. But then on screen, she's just like this weird flat. Like she doesn't feel very emotional. Like we said this before, like her son, her daughter-in-law, her granddaughter have just died. I'm hoping there's a reason why she feels so emotionless and it's not just
perhaps that's what's sucked her emotion out, that so many people close to her family. But then you've got the impression...
Then she goes on and tries to get £5,000 from someone. That's her first thought.
Well, no, that's
it's just
true.
weird. I hope there's a reason why her character seems so two-dimensional at the moment and it's not just a casting issue. She's not an actress, is she? She's a singer.
No, she's a singer. And she did a reality show where she was telling people how to dress. She did.
So she's presenting. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, is she an actress? I don't know. I don't know much about her.
I mean, if she was brought up in a stage school, then she would be a triple threat, wouldn't she? Sing, dance, act.
And dress.
And dress, yeah, a quadruple threat. Time will tell, I think, with Ellie. But I like the Raymond story. And actually, I'm inclined to believe that the character is staying and he will be staying with Denise.
Are you talking about Raymond?
Yes, Raymond. Yeah. Raymond is staying.
Ellie, maybe, I don't know.
But I thought Ellie might stay for a little bit, but I didn't think she would be a permanent fixture. The thing is, though, the problem is that if he was to stay with Denise, then it's going to be a continuous, endless story loop with Denise and Phil. And
Jack.
And that's
Chelsea
a dangerous road
coming
to
back. Chelsea and Jack dated, didn't they?
Yeah.
So that's going to be a bit... I wonder if that would be... that would be awkward.
Okay, moving on to the Slaters. A couple of things with the Slaters this week. Stacey has decided that she now loves Martin again. That he admitted that the mistake that he had made was not a mistake. He made it up to protect her. The thing she did to portray Martin as revenge was a mistake.
Because of that lie, yeah.
Well, it was because of the lie in the first place. And now she regrets doing that. But if he hadn't made that lie up originally, she would never have done that.
No, I bet she regrets calling him a bastard in that hotel room now.
I mean, language. Unfortunately, Martin and Ruby, he doesn't want to be tied down when she was with Max. She likes a polymogamous relationship.
He proposed to her and she said, marriage is the last thing I'll ever do. Just ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's so stupid.
But there you go. They're married now. Was it in Dubai?
Why? I don't know.
In front of
stupid.
In front of two witnesses. And
like, why have they
got
Ruby was like the best female character last series, so we say, whatever, before lockdown, and they've just completely done like a 180 on her, and like they're portraying her as this weird bitchy villain.
Yeah, I don't know why she relishes such. I suppose Stacey did steal the money from her, so she's kind of seeing this as a bit of a.
But like during the Ruby storyline when she was raped by Martin's old school friend, Stacey was the one who supported her. Martin was the one who said that she was making it up, and he was on. Do you remember that?
Yeah. In the pub. It's like, it was that good episode, wasn't it? A long episode.
And now, like, Martin and her are married all of a sudden when she's this woman who wants an open relationship and never wants kids and doesn't She didn't like baby Abby being around too much, did she?
Oh, yeah.
And now she's got all of Martin's brood. It's just...
Well, Martin, who wants to spend more time with his family, but then has spent no time after lockdown has happened, and finds excuses to not spend time with them. Even
her birthday.
I was about to say, even during...
Was it Hope's birthday?
Hope's birthday party, and Martin was like, here you go, here's a present. We're going to organise our party now, back at Ruby's.
Yeah, no kids allowed.
Yeah. Oh, you can come if you want, Stacey. I mean, Kat and Stacey...
And Kush didn't go, which was weird.
Well, Kush didn't go because he had to babysit, because he thought Kat and Stacey and Mo were going. But Kat and Stacey and Mo had only gone to the club to steal alcohol, again, as a kind of... It's a very tit-for-tat argument, basically, the Slaters and... Allens, I suppose you could call them. Although, I suppose she's a Fowler now, isn't she?
Yeah, Fowler.
Ruby Fowler.
That's a nice ring to it, I guess. But it doesn't compromise like all her character assassination they've done to do it. And Martin's as well. Like, he's this like deadbeat dad all of a sudden.
Martin's has been slowly going through a full loop from the beginning. So he's had his Dark Martin phase, but now he's going back to kind of being a bit soppy fruit and veg market.
But still ignoring his kids and stuff.
Yeah, which is very against his character, because he's always been family, hasn't he?
And we've got the gambling of Kush, which is just plopped out of nowhere.
Yes, well, it started last week where it was hinted. Lily had got hold of Kush's phone and decided to pretend that she didn't know that it was a real game, but then blackmailed Kush into buying her an iPad.
Very Dennis.
Yeah, I know. I thought that
very
too.
Dennis and Michelle.
Why do they always make the kids like these really sneaky characters that know a bit of information and so want to get like a present out of them? I mean, I know,
like Lily was clever enough to like accidentally, shall we say, spend £5,000 on a poker game. Now she says, "Oh, I want this tablet, so buy it for me." Kat hates gambling.
Yeah.
But Kat won the lottery, so she likes gambling really, because she won £1 million once. Why did Lily not just go on Kush's phone, go on Amazon and buy the tablet if she was that sneaky? Like, do you know what I mean? It's
what,
like,
so
and why did
credit
Kush have
card
£5,000 in credit on his account?
Well, that's the thing. He must have his credit card attached to his account. So
does he have where's this £5,000 come from?
But I thought that gambling sites have a
limit?
Gambling aware limit, yeah. And I thought it from about £200-300 that you have to kind of put in a PIN code or something just to verify. Surely there must be some kind of security net, because anyone could just pick up your phone.
You'd hope. And like, why would Kush be playing it like when he's looking after Lily and the Vic? It's just so...
Well, no, he gave Lily the phone so she could play a game, and she obviously kind of came off of that app. It's probably a really boring like app that he got her to play.
Colouring in.
Yeah. And,
or dress up EastEnders characters.
Well, I mean, that's not a boring app. That's a fun app. And there's a video of that of me playing on YouTube. Lily is about the same age at the moment as Nigel and Debbie's kid in classic EastEnders we're watching right now, Claire. And all Claire does is mope around and feel a bit sorry for herself.
Sonia,
she's friends with Sonia, but she kind of, that's what I mean. The kids are kind of like being kid-like. So they talk about school, and Claire gets a little bit of a badgering from Sonia because Nigel's a bit of a wet one, and Nigel stands up against like a bully on her behalf, and they all realise that Nigel's cool after all. That's what I imagine kids' stories should be on EastEnders, but they always make kids really sneaky. They have to always want something. They almost
blackmail.
Did it. They blackmail. They almost did it with Amy when Amy had that video of them kissing. Remember, she had that phase when she kept videoing people kissing one another, and she kept watching them on her iPad.
Dennis's drone was filming people as well, wasn't it? I mean, Lily is very different, isn't she, from the Lily we did know? Like this shy, coy, kind of sweet, but kind also of intelligent awkward girl.
She was awkward, but she was intelligent, and she could reflect very easily onto people. Like, she could tell what people were thinking and how they felt. And this one's
she's stealing
brash. Kush. Yeah, she's brash. I mean, I guess...
What's her reason for being horrible to Kush? Like, he's not done anything.
Well, because they're trying to make her like her mum, aren't they? But then when Stacey was first introduced, she was not shy, but she had that history where she was always... She lived with Jean, and her brother Sean had gone. The dad had died. She was the main carer of Jean. And so she knew how to stand up and be confident for herself, but she was also very vulnerable. And I just wonder why they've not given that kind of vulnerable side to Lily.
Maybe she just picked up what her mum's been doing the past few months. She should have asked her mum to get her a tablet when she had the Ruby's account, shouldn't she? She messed up there.
Yes.
She got Teddy Bear instead. Yeah, this whole gambling thing with Kush, I'm not a fan.
Well, I mean, this is the beginning of his end, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just silly. It just seems like they've just plucked this idea out of nowhere, and he's suddenly got £5,000 worth of debt. And there's so many plot holes, like about the rent and Suki just increasing it, and Daniel paying thousands of pounds to pay it off. And
yeah, but I think that's
it's just
sneaky
like,
for the Panesars, isn't it? That's them kind of
Yeah,
well,
but
not
it's
even
just silly.
Panesars, it's Suki doing it.
If Gray had his right head on, they could go over and ask him to be a lawyer for them.
Yeah. But at the moment, Gray is not in a good state, which we will discuss in a little bit later on. However, we have a couple of short stories to discuss, stories that are the beginning, the seed of perhaps a longer arc next week, and that is Kathy and her dating app with Peter, who has lowered her age by almost half, but she gets away with it.
And she still looks younger than 45.
God, yeah.
He could load it all the way down to 20.
I put 18.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised she doesn't get ID'd to buy alcohol in the shop. But I think the only reason they don't ID her is because she buys alcohol so regularly. They just don't need to bother anymore. The staff know her by first name.
It's quite nice, Peter and Kathy's relationship, isn't it? It's quite sweet. Like that, Kathy's the one who's leaving Peter money in her will, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, they're quite nice. I see that Peter's got a new tattoo on his inner arm.
Oh, I didn't spot that. You pay close attention. Close attention when Peter's on screen. Yeah, when Peter's on screen, attention is given.
Yeah, did he get that illegally over lockdown? I thought tattoo places were closed, Peter.
Well, the actor or...
Both. I'm questioning both of them.
Maybe it's a transfer and they just use it for his character later on.
Well, there'll be it's like foreshadowing. It's like claw mark in his own arm. So
or like the Monster Energy drink.
Yeah, it looks like that.
Logo.
So I wonder what that's foreshadowing.
I'm not sure.
Peter's OCD where he scratches him, maybe.
It's Bobby's OCD.
Bobby, sorry, yeah.
Bobby has the OCD. So Bobby's got this cleaning obsession. And
Sharon's taking full advantage of that.
She's like, come on over. My house needs a clean.
That does make me laugh because Peter looked in and like Bobby had cleaned like every plate, every glass, every knife, fork.
But everything was in a row as well on the table. And Pete was just like, oh, I'm getting a Chinese one. I think, yeah, get me something vegetarian. Okay, see you later, Peter.
And it's like, it made me laugh because Sharon was upstairs. So Sharon probably saw it and thought, I won't say anything. I'll let him do the whole house first, then I'll say something.
To be fair, he's doing a good
She
job.
probably just got a gin and tonic and just sat on her sofa, didn't she?
Yeah, in the nice clean glass. Yeah, I mean, it's worrying that Bobby, Peter and Kathy are all having these stories. And again, they're just being ignored and isolated away from Ian. Like, Ian just has no involvement with his own family.
No, he did. I don't even know what he said. He came in and said something, didn't he?
I think he just made a passing comment about Kathy joining the dating app. Kathy said that she didn't want to be someone's carer, which I thought was a bit harsh because, someone might think the same way about her.
No, she's probably getting messages from old men saying, you can come look after me, offer some cash.
Yeah, but I don't appreciate Kathy's ageism. I have to be honest with you. I think Kathy she's being a bit stones being thrown in glass houses attitude, if you ask me. I think
she needs to go out with Cherie and find a man with Cherie, I think.
I think that's a wonderful idea. I'd love to. She might as well she could go to the Albert. There's so many straight people there.
She could find Tina leaving.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Who's going to end up? Well, I suppose Mick can get the job there now. Yeah, but if
all
Tina's
straight
leaving,
men.
Do you know what? That's now you said about Tina leaving, and obviously Frankie's story is kind of leading to her. Is it going to be a one-off story with Frankie, or is this going to be something that she stays on? But it's the Albert slowly dying into a non-existence, which we all worried was going to happen.
I mean, there's a few. Kathy could let Ben run it, and he could turn into this weird, stupid underground dodgy deal club thing. Which I don't want.
Underground poker like they did in the 80s.
Yeah, so I don't want Ben to have it because they'll just ruin that. But Kim. She's coming back.
I mean, Kim
she wanted
could look after it, yeah.
And I thought maybe Kat, because she used to be a landlady at the Vic, she could run the gay bar. Kat, couldn't she? So that could be good.
So they've still got their cleaning business.
No, that can just go. Who cares about that?
Well, it's good. It doesn't need to be focused. Do you know what I mean? I think a job is a job on a soap is at its best when it's not the main focus of the characters. Just having them as cleaners is good because it means they can interact with lots of different scenes. Go all over the place.
A bit like Ethel.
Yeah.
And from 1985.
Exactly. The Kat is our new Ethel. And I don't mind Kat getting involved with other people because again she's one of those characters that has had enough life experience on the square that she's able to just kind of step in and say, you know what, I'll give you a hand. Talking of people who need some help, we have the Carters, or more importantly Mick and his ongoing struggle with his historical abuse storyline. So if you don't want to listen to this, then we suggest that you skip forward to the next section. To the next section. Again, timestamps are on our notes. However, he's discovered, or the family have discovered pretty much, that Frankie's mum was the person who cared for Mick
Tina,
in the care system because Shirley had given up Mick at a very young age. Something that Shirley, throughout the week, has constantly asked for forgiveness from Mick. And
Shirley didn't give him up. It was a bit like the Zoe and Kat thing, wasn't it? Stan and what's Aunt Babe's sister called? Mick Tina and Shirley's mum, Sylvie. Stan and Sylvie brought up Mick thinking that was his mum and dad and Shirley was his sister. I think, wasn't Shirley in like a bad place? She wasn't really there.
Well, she alluded on a few occasions that she was, as you say, I think she was tied up in like drugs and
she
alcohol.
Was playing Mandy's mum with Pat.
Yes.
In the 80s.
Yes.
That's what was happening.
She really was Mandy's mum.
Yes. So that's where that was. And obviously him and Tina had a carer who is this Katie woman who is Frankie's mum, who thinks that Mick is her dad. But like the ages and like the dates sort of came out over the table, didn't they? And it all
Frankie worked out
into place.
Yes, that Mick was only 12 or 13 when she was born, and so it was abuse. It was I suppose a sexual attack on Mick. And I mean, it was interesting that Frankie immediately went against her own mother. And even when Mick said to her, like, it wasn't your mum's fault, it was my fault. I was the one who was doing all the moves and I was the one wanting this relationship with your mum. And Frankie wouldn't have anything of it. Frankie was adamant. It's like, you were a child.
Yeah, that was quite good. Like, she didn't want to, like, it's not like Leo's mum, like, trying to stick up for Leo. And even though she knows he was, like, being weird, Frankie was like, oh no, this is wrong. And, like, it's a shame we didn't then get her confronting her mum, but I wonder if she has confronted her mum about it, and if not, then I hope we do see it.
Yes, it's something that we need to see. But then the problem is that because Frankie's now off screen, you don't know what is happening between her and her
that's
mum.
what I mean. It's a shame.
But I'm getting the impression that they're probably going to go with that Frankie's gone, and Frankie's mum is going to come to the square and look for.
Because Tina's got in contact with her, isn't she?
Yeah, Katie. She found her on social media, and Tina's none the wiser. And Tina's really excited about meeting Katie again.
Yeah, because she just thinks it was some little crush that Mick had.
Yeah,
and he sort of can't admit anything, and he's kind of slowly realised he's trying to like pretend, because there was a line about how he told Stan that he'd had sex with her and he was 12, and Stan was kind of like, oh yeah, good on you, lad, good for you, son. Which is, I don't know, does that mess Stan's character up a bit?
I don't think so. I think
was Stan just so drunken out of it anyway?
Exactly.
Like, he wouldn't have really.
He was always painted as being not
horrible.
A great, and he only felt regret for it afterwards when he was dying and they were looking after him. Yeah, so. Yes, I think it suits his character. It's a bit like when you hear stories, not so much now, but Jim Branning. Like when you look back at the backstory of Jim Branning, he was an awful father to the Branning
No wonder
brothers.
Max turned out the way he did.
Well, and Jack, really, if you think to some extent.
And Carol. How tart.
Yes. And so you've got that backstory about Jim Branning, but that doesn't mean that it's tainted his character that you remember from it. Because even when he was on screen, he was very funny about people of colour. Jim Branning.
Yeah, well, even Carol marrying Alan.
Yep, he didn't like that. And he didn't like the same-sex relationship Sonia was having as well. So Jim had a lot of flaws. I mean, it's the same way with Stan. You'll never forget his flaws, and so I think it was very much within his character. And I don't think it painted him in a harsh light, something that tainted your memory of him. To be fair, I was never. Even when Stan was on the soap, I was never a fan of him.
His like ending storyline was very powerful though, and really well done. But yeah, I was the same. Like, he's a great actor, Timothy, but I was never a fan of Stan as a character. I wasn't a fan of that whole arc. I preferred Sylvie and Aunt Babe's fight with him. Cora as well. She was involved, wasn't she? It was like a love triangle. Of like 80-year-olds.
My goodness, yes, I forgot about that. They were all trying to get his attention, and he played them.
Yeah, he danced with them all, didn't he?
Yeah. So if you think about it, him making that comment to Mick saying, "Oh, well done, son," it actually again fits because he played females up to the day he died. He was always a user and he was always a very masculine and misogynistic kind of guy.
I think it was kind of like a bit of a stretch to have Shirley feel guilty, like that she wasn't a good mum to him at the time, because we know that no one knew that, like, she was the mum. So like, it's a bit weird that Mick is like blaming her for not stepping up as a mum.
I agree. I felt like
that feels a bit unfair for her. I think
Shirley's blame has already been, dealt with. Exactly, it has been dealt with. It was dealt with the kind of Dino story as well. And like when they first initially discovered that she was Mick's mum, there was that tainted relationship between them, which is that that's been fixed now between them.
So we've been there, done that. Even with Sylvie as well, when she had the dementia and that all came out. Like, there's so many times they've had this between them. It's like they don't really need it again. It felt really like forced.
Yeah.
But Linda Henry got to act, so
I was going to say,
can't fault it.
Yeah, it meant that we got to see a lot of Linda Henry this week, and I loved her scenes this week. I loved her scene with Linda in the pub when she was getting very upset, and I actually
stepping up for the first time.
Yeah, and I really liked it, the interaction between them, because normally it's Linda who's kind of always getting torn apart by Shirley one way or another, and even during the story where Linda's alcoholism was coming out, Shirley pretty much said, like, you know, the only reason I want you to get better is because I want Mick to be happy. And this time Linda kind of stepped forward and said, you know, I'm concerned for you, and you know, I want to build this bridge between you and Mick. And so Linda seemed to actually, the relationship between her and Shirley, I thought was really nice, and you actually saw this other side, whether instead of it being
them fighting all
the time,
literally fighting,
and there's always a backhanded compliment with Shirley. It's always like, oh, you're good for my son, but you're also an alcoholic. You know what I mean? So it was nice to see Shirley showing this intimate, vulnerable side in front of Linda, and she also stood up for Linda this week as well against Gray, because Gray had a bit of a go at Linda. She had cleaned his house, which we'll talk about in a second, and Shirley was adamant, I'm going to tell him not to talk to you that way again.
That was Shirley's moment of, I wasn't stepping up before, that's why Mick's upset, so I'm going to do it now for him. And she stayed over at Gray's, the old tart. For something that's been allegedly planned out from beginning, middle and end, it's so like random, all the characters that have had like little hints in it. Like there was a hint that Jean might be involved. At the beginning, Kim and Chantel had a rivalry, which we thought might come to something. And now, like, out of all characters, Shirley ends up staying over and saving. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what?
Shirley's the one who might be weird. The one who ultimately makes the discovery about what Gray's
Shirley
done.
and Gray never had a scene before together, ever.
She'd gone to Gray's house to have a go at him about, you know, how the way he treated Linda, and I think it was almost in a weird way, because it was an outside perspective, it made sense. And as you said, it was Shirley kind of used Gray's scenario as a redemption for her, and Gray almost acknowledged that by saying, you know, I've said sorry to my children, and I've said sorry so many times that perhaps if you just keep saying it to Mick, eventually he'll forgive you. But then that kind of again reminded me of the fact that basically Shirley has apologised again and again and again to Mick, and Mick does forgive her. But there's always, I mean, Mick, this is Mick's, maybe one of his flaws, is the fact that he just won't give up his resentment toward his mum. And it's like, that's obviously weighing heavy on him, and perhaps is a bit of a cause for his panic attacks. And I'd like them, in a way, they did the story obviously with Gray having seen the counsellor. In a way, I would really like them to do a similar story with Mick, where he sees a counsellor and has a discussion about this. You know, this not only about this historical abuse, but his relationship with his mum and how it's always been very strained, and also about the abuse with Dean and Linda, his wife, as well.
There's time for that. I think Mick isn't even accepting it himself yet, is he? So I think he's trying to find a way of making this make sense to him. That actually, because he's not really admitted that he was abused, has he?
No.
So I guess you just have to give him time. You can't go to there's almost, you can go too early to counselling, I think. So I don't think he's quite ready or there yet.
Yeah, well, he needs to admit to himself that he needs to see someone for therapy and help. But it just, for me, that you don't see, I would like them to actually deal with a story like this with a degree of responsibility, rather than just kind of being forgotten or done in a very
Good luck.
Well, yeah, but don't you think that's a responsible thing to do?
Yes, it won't happen.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway,
no, yeah.
But now we're going to talk about Gray's story, because we're also going to talk about Whitney's court case, and she's been acquitted. She's not a murderer.
Sonia was shocked.
Sonia was shocked. The judge couldn't believe it, because her shambles of a courtroom, just ridiculous. It was
awful. The whole court storyline was just shocking, but it's over.
Yes.
And it's done. The woman said Gray can come back anytime. Great ending speech. Never heard anything better.
Yeah. He was linking. It was very. To be fair, it was very well written, the speech. It perhaps wasn't particularly very well portrayed. Yeah, it wasn't carried out quite so well. For me, the actor's great. Please don't get me wrong, but the actor seems to be playing Gray as in a man who got his solicitor's degree, then watched loads and loads and loads and loads of courtroom dramas, and then acts like what he saw on that TV programme a few times. Do you not think? So he was a parody of a solicitor.
It is strange, because Gray, before they announced the domestic abuse storyline, Gray was quite different on the outside, but like I never watched the actor then and thought that was a bit of a dodgy delivery. Like when he was quite pally with Mick, wasn't he? Ever since they've shown him to be this dark person, it just doesn't feel like the right casting for that story. Like if you compare it to Trevor from Mo and...
He always had that foreboding inside of him, didn't he?
Or even like, you know, Hollyoaks did that storyline with that woman who he hates from Big Brother, and she was abused by that hot teacher guy. Do you remember? And like he raped Nancy as well at the school.
What?
Do you not remember that guy who was like a teacher and he was abusing...
Oh, the one, sorry, Celebrity Big Brother. When you said Big
she was
Brother,
on Celebrity Big Brother.
Yeah.
She was on Hollyoaks and she was being abused by her husband who was a teacher.
Oh, but then he was abusing a teacher at the school.
At the same time,
who's the woman who can't get pregnant.
Like, I thought it was a real shame that he, like, that type of actor, he was actually quite decent at that real menacing thing. Can't remember his name. He's dead. Fell off a balcony.
Was he pushed?
But like he was really good at doing that menacing thing. Where I just don't think Toby. He's not quite cutting it, and I'm wondering if that's why they've brought in like Linda and Shirley, because like they're like two of the best actresses on the show, and they're like, okay, let's lift this up a bit. But they keep giving him long monologues. It shouldn't be, but it's like boring halfway through a monologue of it.
I know what you mean. I mean, I'm listening to the words he says. I mean, the writing, I think, for me, is very good. The material they've given him to say, I think, is great, spot on. I have to agree with you again that I think that he...
It's a shame.
...has this kind of... There's something... It's like he's being very... It's almost like he doesn't want to act this pathetic character. He always wants him to be still very strong with a backbone. Do you know what I mean? So he's not although
it's very breathy.
Yeah.
His lines.
Although the character should be releasing, he's almost like a wound up spring. He wants to release all this information, but he can't. So he's being kept inside. So he should be kind of like very tense, but he's not. His tenseness doesn't portray very well.
No, like when he stomped up the stairs and they looked at
like a
him.
Cyberman.
Yeah, and it was just like really robotic. It's just, I don't know, there's something off about it. I don't know why, but the whole time there's been something slightly off with the whole storyline, which is why I don't think it's really captured many people's attention.
It is a shame though, because we knew that they could do something amazing, because that week building up to Chantel's ultimate death.
Well, they just put all their eggs in 1 week, don't they? That's what they tend to do at the moment.
Well, or one episode.
Yeah, then that's it. And it's like 25 minutes of great stuff, and then it's just like, oh, that's that. So yeah, it's a real like, longevity to anything. Everything's just plucked out of nowhere. It feels.
Great.
It was very dark what he was doing.
It was unthinkable.
That's what I mean. It was so dark and horrible and like gritty, which are all buzzwords which you relate to EastEnders.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it just felt like...
It felt too clean.
There was no peril to it. The same as Whitney's guilty or not guilty.
I see. I agree with Whitney's guilty or not guilty, because I think ultimately we all knew it was going to be she was going to be cleared. The actress was too important for the soap for her to be basically sent down or given a rest or doing any prison scenes. But for me, actually, I felt a little bit of like, are they actually going to pull this off?
He mentioned it on that special episode as well, didn't he? He said, I'll go up and kill them now then, didn't he? So
yes, that's right. He's threatened to kill his children once before, but that was as a threat towards Chantel. In a funny way, he's gone the other way, and he's done it now as a way of thinking.
Yeah, it can't be without her.
He's going to now see her again. He thinks that obviously there's ultimately...
I mean, that is quite common. Lots of men who do end up... They kill the whole family, don't they?
Yeah, very common. Well, I say very common.
But you know what I mean.
It happens, yeah.
But, so, I mean, I don't know. They wouldn't do it. But that could have been...
I mean, they won't do it now, because they had an opportunity to do it. And I think they'd be very sloppy if they now, in a month or so's time, that Gray feels like he still can't forgive
Plus he'd
himself.
then get away with it, and like no one would ever actually know.
Yeah, I know. There was a little bit of me that kind of morbidly wanted to see it happen. I know.
You just feel like the balls to do it, I guess.
Real balls to do it. I mean...
And it would be horrible.
But they could have got away with it, though. They could have done it where maybe Gray died, but the kids didn't. The Mad May, don't forget. Mad May did something very similar.
She exploded her lighter.
Yeah. And Mickey and Dawn, with her child, was upstairs when they saved them in the end. So they could have... I mean, Shirley over-dramatised it a little bit by saying, you'd blow up the whole square if you had done it. But
yeah, not Albert Square.
Nah, Albert Square's inflammable. It would be fine. There'd just be that one building that would be, burning down.
They were standing in that gas for like a long time, though. Like having their long chat.
Now, see... At school, I was taught that if you leave gas on in a house, it takes just a door opening to cause a spark for a house to go up. So the whole time I was thinking, be careful, don't scrape your heels along the floor or anything like that. It just takes a small thing like that. And then when he threw the light on the floor, I thought, oh, no, it's going to happen. But I don't think the children should have died, obviously. And yes, you're right, actually. I never thought of it in this respect. Gray wouldn't have necessarily got his comeuppance that he should get, which is that he should go to prison for what he did. Unforgivable. I don't know. There's a little bit of me that thought, you haven't announced this in the general press. It's a secret.
Yeah, that would have been good.
And that would have been shocking. And I think the amount of replay value that people would have, it wouldn't be "you ain't my mother, yes I am" replay value, but it would. I mean, I think a lot of people would have been drawn to. Oh my God, did you hear what happened last night? A proper water cooler moment.
That's what they do need. They need something like this to happen, because then it would make people think, oh, maybe I do need to watch this live because that just happened.
Exactly.
And that's what Dominic Treadwell. I think that's what he said he did, wasn't it? He made things happen. So if you missed it, you feel like you missed out.
There was a quote months and months and months ago. I think it was John Sen, but I'm sorry if I'm misquoting. But he said that he wants to make EastEnders, and I'm probably misquoting when I'm saying it this way now, but he wanted to make EastEnders a show for the Netflix generation. And for something like that, it's not about the live moment, it's about the rewatchable moment. And I think EastEnders seems to go for more of I'll watch it on a Sunday afternoon as an omnibus package nowadays. And I think from a lot of people we speak to on social media, on our Twitter, a lot of them say, I don't watch it live anymore, even though we watch it live and we live tweet, and we'll carry on doing that for the future. Our Twitter is still going, guys. I think that EastEnders are more than happy now. The ratings aren't very high, but EastEnders don't seem to. But you know what I mean. BBC don't seem to mind that because they know that people are still watching it, but they're now watching it on their iPlayer platform.
Yeah, but even when they do their consolidated ratings all together, they're still third.
Are you sure? Because EastEnders get over 1 million downloads on every episode.
Yeah, but a lot of that, it's like a YouTube view, isn't it? That 1 million downloads, how much has someone actually watched of that episode?
But it's different content to YouTube.
No,
YouTube
I know,
is meant to be short, sharp. It's a bit like TikTok.
Those ratings aren't really... You can't go by them like Bible. It's like they could have just watched 10 seconds and that's a view.
No, I'm inclined to say that I don't think the BBC would consider a 10-second view.
I mean, I click on an episode 10 times just to get a screen grab. How many people are doing that? And how many fake views? Do you know what I mean?
But isn't there an algorithm in YouTube that you have to watch a video for at least 30 seconds before it's counted as a view?
Yeah, this is iPlayer.
Yeah, but that's my
iPlayer
point.
got hacked last year and then a whole week got leaked. So.
Oh, what a week that was. And they've been criticised a lot recently for not kind of aiming their television viewing or their content to a younger audience. And I think the BBC are more than happy to allow the EastEnders package to be an iPlayer programme. It's still shown
on... Move to iPlayer soon. Could you imagine if the EastEnders moved to iPlayer only?
Well, and they released a month's worth of episodes all at once. This podcast would be a mess. But I think for me, that's the kind of direction they seem to be. They've openly said that's the direction they kind of want to.
The wrong direction.
Well, it depends on what you want from your soap. But you're right.
Rating. People to watch it.
Big moments. But soaps aren't made for that kind of content, is it? Really, for you watch it as a box set. Soaps aren't a box set program.
That's the thing. You're meant to be watching them as a story goes on, but the way the stories are now, you're kind of watching the bullet points of a storyline, but everything else doesn't really appear on screen.
But again, that's something that you can see from their social media because they're showing clips on their social media now. So, but you don't really need to watch the show anymore.
No.
And people don't. People just know what's happening on EastEnders from the clips.
It really annoys me on their social media. They post the duff and say, you can catch up on this episode now. And it's like, well, you've just shown the end of the episode.
So what's the point, really? There's no point because there's no build.
Not that any of them are really cliffhangers anyway. What was Friday's duff? Can't remember.
Shirley had a duff. It's when Mick said to her, "You're not my mum," kind of thing. Yeah. You've betrayed me enough.
See?
And she's crying.
That's not a good duff.
It's a Shirley duff.
Yeah, it's not a good one.
Anyway, so that's our roundup of the week.
Is that all the storylines, is it?
That's all of them. I just want to talk a bit more deeply about Whitney. No, okay. But it's a lovely time I've had with you.
Good.
But we stay on just for 10 more minutes while we talk about some comments other people have said on our social media?
Yeah.
Okay,
cool.
Why not? So here we go. This is I'm Not One to Gossip.
You know me, I ain't one to gossip.
So as usual, every week we ask you to send us messages or tweets. As always, you don't disappoint and you have sent us lots and lots and lots. Starting with @CaddyCTSLover on Twitter, who has said, Linda is amazing in heavy scenes, so we need to get some more of these. They already seem to be rushing through the storyline, so I hope they slow down as the Shirley-Mick relationship starts to get interesting.
I've heard a lot of people say that they're rushing through storylines. Like there's loads going on but not anything going on, kind of. in a weird parallel.
Yeah. Ashley McDougall has said, loving the Grey story, I was on the edge of my seat. Interesting to see how they play this out. Hope they do Chantel justice though, and love Shirley seeing a different side to Mick's story. A lot of Shirley love. I mean, It's been a long time coming. They need to do something.
She'll be announced as leaving next. No.
I hope not. Do you think they will?
I don't know. Apparently there's more exits coming, but we don't know who. There's a rumour.
At Cheskas_tweets says, I wouldn't have imagined Phil to take selfies from chest height. Proper middle-aged ones. So there you go. He's a boomer
so
after all. Living Up Like Ja Rule on Twitter has said, I know that Patsy can't make it. This is Patsy Palmer, Bianca's character. Oh, we never talked about that.
And she was on the phone.
She was on the phone, but she had other things to do, so she just kind of dismissed Whitney. I know that Patsy can't make it, but they could have written that scene better. I hate how that when she's off screen, they write her to be a selfish, horrible mother.
I know, that's the trouble. When someone is off screen, you have to write them horribly. Like, they really ruined Zainab off screen.
Yeah.
Like, because they have to keep finding excuses why someone's not there. And, like, Simon Wicks is, like, ruined off screen as well.
But then Simon did come back to lay some flowers on his mum's grave. So he's forgiven.
But he hates his son for being bisexual.
That's true.
Ruined.
Do you think they're going to bring the Wicks back? There's Simon, David. I mean, I'm enjoying
They'll probably
David.
be recast. So no, don't touch any. They're not. They don't seem interested in bringing any old ones back, do they? The whole
Chelsea.
cast.
You mean like
she's
from the
recast.
80s and the early 90s?
Yeah, like all the characters are just new and rubbish.
We've not talked about this at the beginning of the show, but talking about recast, one quick second. It kind of ruins the heritage of a character. It's not so bad for Chelsea because
they just feel
Chelsea,
like a new character, don't they?
Exactly, they don't feel like it's the same old character. Michelle is an argument. I know they couldn't get Susan Tully, and they desperately wanted to have Michelle's character back.
But like, no, just bring an old school friend from Sharon's back who's a bit like Michelle, and just have that as the new actress. But like, they're so. Like, some of the recasts, Bobby is fine because he was like a child actor, so that's kind of acceptable.
No, see, I disagree because they showed Bobby in prison when Max was blackmailing Jane, and it was still the same actor. And I don't get me wrong, I like the new actor of Bobby, and they've cast it very well because he does look like a young Ian Bill. But I really liked the actor and then he was a good actor too. He was really good.
No, they specifically got him in to do the live episodes, didn't they? But the new Bobby out of recast is a good recast.
No.
But like, people like Chelsea, like, is there a need to recast her?
Yeah, but is it because of the actress wouldn't be able to do it? Did they ask the actress first of all?
Is Chelsea that important though? Like, if the actress isn't available, just don't bring her back. Really?
I think it is important to where they're going though with Denise's story. I've got a funny feeling that
What about Libby?
Well, yeah, they couldn't recast Libby though.
Bring her
Squiggle.
back. She comes back all the time.
Yeah, but she's doing another soap.
Yeah, across the lot on Holby. She has to walk across the road and she can film.
Imagine having to film 2 soaps.
Nah, she's fine.
Bad enough doing one.
She can do it.
I was wondering if they're because obviously Kate Oates likes bringing a few people back from like other soaps that she used to work on. Can you imagine if they brought in William Roach into the soap?
What was a long lost Fowler?
Yeah,
brother.
I know that. Ken Barlow leaves the Cobbles to join the Square.
He'll never leave.
Ian
Woodyatt wouldn't like that, would he? He wants to be the longest
Ian
serving.
Woodyatt could then go to... Yeah, well, Ian Woodyatt would still be the longest serving.
That's true.
It's just a different soap. Well, he's not the longest serving, though. Ken Roach is. I'd say Ken Roach. William Roach. It's not Ken Roach.
I just think the recast is just silly. Like, the Chelsea one, I don't care about Chelsea as a character. I've never watched EastEnders when she was in it, or when Denise first came in it.
Chelsea's character used to annoy the heck out of me.
But it's still more... like unfamiliarity, like on the show is so there's not like, you can't quickly flick on and see like an icon like Kathy, Sharon, they appear for like 10 seconds. What's the likelihood of someone flicking through to catch that?
Yeah,
and I think that's the main issue with the show now. It just feels like it just doesn't feel like EastEnders at the moment. That's
the thing, and I agree with you on it. There's a lot of argument to say that, like, you know, don't get rid of Phil because he's like he's a draw to the program. Don't get rid of Kathy; she's a draw to the program. People like that. But yeah, okay, fine, I agree with you on that. Having older characters are a draw, and okay, maybe I complain a few times that they overuse Phil, but they do overuse Phil. But there are other characters that are part of the fabric of the show for many, many years, so use them too.
It's like Tina. Like, I'm not upset that Tina's leaving because she's not being used, but they could use her.
Yeah,
and the same as Kush. Like, they've been on it like 7 years, so people who may have dipped out of the show, that's like a familiar face, and they're just losing all of them. Like Max Branning, Kush, Tina. It's just nah. Not for me.
But then is this the reset button that we've been arguing for?
Yeah, but
for such
they
a long
do
time?
it decently. Like all the new characters, like Isaac, know nothing about him. Cherie, like all these people could be good characters. Like when we're watching classic episodes, we've seen people like Nigel we've never seen before, like Sanjay, Geeta. I didn't have the preconception of they're really good characters. You feel like you kind of know them.
Yeah, there's a development for them.
But like with Isaac, I couldn't tell you 3 things that he enjoys. Do you know what I mean?
True. I mean, is that another thing? Is it that they need to reduce the number of cast? Is there too many?
They just need to spend time developing them as actual people.
Yeah, but is there too many of them? So that maybe they should just try to rein in the number of casts there are.
Yeah.
And is it better to have a small cast used more, utilised more, or having a large cast and then you're kind of dipping into a story once a month with each kind of family?
That's an issue because there's so many that are just... There's like Kathy's dating storyline. You can call it a storyline. But like he just appeared for like a scene on Friday.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
But then I suppose that's a build-up for next week, isn't it?
I know, but like just give us more characters that we actually care about. Like Vinny, Kirat, Isaac, Cherie.
I mean,
Ikra, Ash.
I endorse more Panesars.
All of those, I look like you don't really. You just know that they're character names, really. Like, what do we really know about Ikra?
Well, you know that the Panesars are close-knit group. But then I suppose you could say that about a lot of the families on EastEnders, because that's what the show's about, family and all that.
But they need to be individual people, not just a group of family. Yeah. It just feels like you're watching people you don't really know. That's the trouble.
And that's the reason why you're not doing the podcast anymore. Another comment from @LukeNewton on Twitter has said, EastEnders crap all over the place to many storylines going on and not getting anywhere, and it's dragging on and on.
I agree.
On our Instagram, Sydney Dumphy has said, much better than last week. Less Ballum has helped, and icons like Shirley and Phil and Dennis has also helped.
Dennis? I wonder who she meant. Denise.
Denise.
Typo.
Yes.
We do miss the icon Dennis.
Yes, and bring Dennis back. You can find out that he didn't drown after all. It was just some other body that they found in the canal. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you for everyone who sent comments to us on our Twitter and our Instagram. You can follow us on @Walford Weekly. On our Facebook group, just search Walford Weekly Podcast and click to join. You can also find our YouTube channel by searching Walford Weekly Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell. And if you like listening to this podcast on YouTube, you can put a thumbs up there as well if you fancy, just giving it a quick click. But don't forget, you can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, or any one of your favourite podcast apps. So it's for... we don't know how long, until the next classic roundup. It's a goodbye from Ben.
Yeah, review of 1995. In December.
You can listen to his lovely tones again. And as I say, keep up to date with us on our social media to find out how we're going to go forward in the future. But don't forget, we're still on Twitter and we'll still be commenting live on EastEnders as it's broadcast in the UK. And also throwing a few fish into the ocean for you sharks out there to gobble up.
What?
I don't know. I don't know how to end. This is why I shouldn't be doing this on my own. Anyway, have a great week, everyone. Take care.
Goodbye.